Good morning. Welcome to another episode of HardFoul. Hope you guys are enjoying yourself, however you are listening, whether it is on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and soon to be Spotify. Still working on the details of Spotify. Trust me though, guys, I'm going to get there. It's going to be great. Love you guys for everyone that's supported, everyone that's commented. It's been such a fun experience. I really cannot say thank you enough to you guys. Yeah. If you've been following for a good amount of time, we're closing in on 50 episodes between, I did a name change halfway through, between Like It or Leave It and HardFoul, we're closing in on 50. And I think that's just a really cool thing. The fact it started with convincing one of my friends to wake up at 3 a.m. with me, which is, trust me, you got good friends when you can convince them. It's like, hey, dude, I need you to wake up at 3 a.m. with me for the next 5 days. It's going to be okay. So that's been awesome. Like I said, the whole experience has been great. As always, guys, I'm super passionate about sports. I'm passionate about what I talk about. I love talking, so that helps, Love talking, love sports. I found it. Anyway, let's get right into it, you guys. So there's this thing in business and just almost any company you work at. It's called an AVO. Avoid verbal orders. It basically means anything anyone says, don't believe it unless it's written down or has been electronically transmitted. Right? Like, even if you go to court, hearsay does not hold up in court. Why? Because we're not 4th and 5th graders doing he said, she said, he took my ball, she pulled my hair. We're adults. Or we're supposed to be, at least. So you get everything in writing. Makes the world move so much smoother. This first topic is really interesting to me because I didn't think much of it at the time. And then I started to think more about it and I'm like, oh yeah, that does start to make a lot more sense. I don't know how many of you guys watched the ESPYs, right? I thought it was funny. Really good show. Peyton Manning hosted. Beyond the football player, Peyton's always been really personable, really charismatic, especially with commercials. I remember always comparing him and Eli in commercials. Eli looks like he doesn't care, doesn't want to be there. Just this really lethargic human being in most commercials. Peyton's always been energetic, outgoing. Ever since he did Saturday Night Live, it'd be about 10, 11 years ago now, whenever he first went on there, and all the commercials and success he's had since then. Super outgoing personality. Great. Peyton made a joke. And all monologues, I don't know who started it, but all monologues at these award shows have turned into, I'm going to throw a joke at this person, throw a joke at this person, say this about this person's teammate and or coworker. Like, that's just what we do now. Peyton made the joke that the U.S. gymnastics team was so dominant, Kevin Durant was going to go play for them next year. I thought it was funny. You probably thought it was funny. I mean, Kevin Durant's own mother thought it was funny, and she laughed. It was like, ha, I get it. We all play games, poke fun. And Kevin Durant stood there, or not stood there, but sat there, with this most I don't know if you ever mean mugged someone to the point you're trying to cause bodily harm with a look. But that's what he had the look of. He wasn't even slightly amused. He was irritated, aggravated. I mean, you would have thought someone actually just said, bleep you and your family. Trying to be child safe here on HardFoul. I sat there and thought about it. I'm like, really? You couldn't take a joke? And then he makes the joke about Westbrook, and you can see Westbrook put his finger in front of his mouth, and he's trying really hard not to laugh. Really, Durant? You couldn't take a simple joke about, oh yeah, you joined the better team? And I get it. I'm not here to sit there and trash on his decision. We've already all talked about that a million times over. And initially, this was my thought process, was just like, wow, why can't you take a joke? And then I thought about it. I had a situation a couple years back at an old job where someone told me, "Hey, we need you on a Saturday. Come in at this time." It's like, okay. He wasn't my big boss or one of the managers, supervisors, but he had a higher position than me, and I thought I was young and naive. I still am, but I was younger and naive. And I said, okay, I'll come in on Saturday at X time. Be fine. I walk in there. My actual manager's like, "Why are you here?" "Well, so-and-so told me to come in." "Do you have proof so-and-so told you to come in? Did he send you a text? Did he write it? Did he give you a note or something?" He's like, "No, sir, I don't." And he said, "Well, you got to go home because we don't need anybody. I don't know why he told you to come in." And I was kind of irritated. I was like, what? I get told to come in. I'm here on a Saturday. I'm not supposed to work. I had to give my Friday night basically because I had to come in early on a Saturday. And then I get told, "Go home. We don't need you." And then I realized I was actually more mad at myself because I've always strived to be someone who goes for the AVO, avoids verbal orders. If someone tells me something like, "Hey, I need you to write it down on a note. I need you to text it to me," anything to show that this is documented. I think the moment with Peyton Manning making a joke at Kevin Durant at the ESPYs was simply a situation of there was no AVO. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but generally my thought process is when they do these shows, they send out notifications or cards or emails or however they want to do it, mail them out as they tell you, "Hey, we're going to say this joke," right? Are you okay with it? Are you not okay with it? And generally most people I think are okay with it and they're whatever. And they say, "Yeah, sure, go for it." And everyone laughs. I think someone said to one of Kevin Durant's people, "Hey, Peyton's going to make this joke about you with you and the U.S. gymnastics team. It's going to be kind of funny. Everyone's going to laugh. Haha." I don't think that message ever got relayed home. Think about it. Out of all the jokes that have ever been said at an ESPYs, a Grammys, Lord forbid the BET Awards, they get pretty personal. It's what we do. We like laughing at ourselves or laughing at other people. And it's always met with a chuckle, a laugh. Oh, that was actually pretty funny, and everyone getting hysterical in the crowd. Kevin Durant looked pissed. His mom laughed, but he looked pissed. Someone told someone in Durant's party, "Hey, this is the joke that's going to be said." And no one ever told Kevin Durant. They took a verbal order, and that verbal order never got passed on. This is why we have AVOs. Avoid verbal orders. Because now Durant's mad, and he goes to talk to one of his guys. He's like, "Well, why wasn't I informed of this?" "Oh, well, I told so-and-so, and they were supposed to tell you." It's no different than the two little kids saying, "Hey, she pulled my hair, I took her ball, and now we're both mad at each other." There's a certain level of, discipline's the wrong word, but there's a certain level of respect, professionalism that you're just supposed to have when you go about these things. This is why everything needs to be written down. Everything needs to be documented. It doesn't fly in court. It doesn't fly in business. And it just really shouldn't fly in life. Unless it's something your mama told you. Then in that case, you do it no matter what she says. Now that we got that rant out of the way. That wasn't even a rant. I take that back. So we go from Kevin Durant. I feel like it's a good segue to talk about. I try to segue from within the same sport. So we're going to go from Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets, which, by the way, I'm not a Rockets fan, but I'm becoming a big-time Rocket appreciator. What the Houston Rockets have done I'll give them the last 2 or 3 years, between Dwight Howard, Ryan Anderson, Eric Gordon, now Chris Paul, making all these moves, that's what you want to see your favorite team do. Even if they're not winning, you at least want to see them try to look like they're winning. Why did the Sixers have no fans the last 3 or 4 years? Because they not only were they bad, they looked like they were purposely trying to be bad. It's like, if you go, I don't watch a lot of movies, but if you go watch a Superman movie, you're not watching a Superman movie for him to just not catch the girl falling from the building, to not save the child in the burning building. You don't watch him be like, wow, Superman messed up again. Cool, that child's dead. Or she fell and hit the ground. Awesome. So the Houston Rockets are attempting to acquire, and according to reports, which I no longer know how many reports I believe, because there's some guy who's close to the source in Boston who doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's about as reliable as everyday media is now. The Houston Rockets are close on a deal to acquiring Carmelo Anthony. And the only thing I'm hearing from literally every single station that I watch, or anybody who's on the radio that I listen to, is, wow, can you put 3 ball-dominant guys together? Can you put Chris Paul needs to dominate the ball? James Harden was just second in the league in usage rate, and Carmelo Anthony hasn't passed the basketball since he was 5 years old. Can they all work on the same team? Of course they can work on the same team. This imaginary definition that we give to players in terms of them being ball-dominant players is ridiculous. It's outdated. And it's truly just ineffective. Every player is a result of their system. I'll even use it. Think of just these players in a nutshell. What was Steph Curry before Steve Kerr got to Golden State? Oh, I think he was a ball-centric, ball-dominant point guard that shot the ball 20 to 25 times a game. Put up all those threes at Davidson. That was made him such a cultural icon of sorts. It's like you got this little guy beating the big guys by shooting three-point shots. Let's look at just James Harden's career. James Harden was the sixth man. Then he became the star volume scorer. Then the system transitioned him into a point guard. He adjusted. He adapted. No one ever said, well, I really don't think you should get James Harden because he just doesn't pass the ball enough. He doesn't do this much enough. No. He's a great player. Great players can adapt. Chris Paul even adapted considering his style of play when he was in New Orleans compared to how he was in LA. Yeah, people are going to look at, oh, well, he was still just a pass first, ball dominant point guard. No, he had to adjust his style of play to the teammates he had. Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, those kind of players weren't around in New Orleans in the beginning of his career. Take two power forwards, right? And I'm not even crazy about either. I'm not crazy about either of these players. But you take Chris Bosh and Kevin Love. What were Chris Bosh and Kevin Love with their original teams? Ball-centric, ball-dominant power forwards. Scored 20, 25 points a game. Had the ball 30 to 40% of their offense. Were the number one option on their teams. And then they became three-point shooting rebounders. Like, there is this whole belief that, oh, this guy's ball dominant, he can't play with anybody, is a bunch of bull. You're a product of your system. Sometimes your system, you adapt to your system, become that kind of player. Like Steph Curry is now thought of as a well-passing and a ball share. What do you talk about all the time with the Warriors? They all share the ball. They all pass first. Even though they got three guys who could average 25 a game, they all pass. They make the extra pass. They get the guy open because they've all bought into the system, and that's reflected in their play. You get a guy like Steve Nash. Steve Nash, when he first came into the league, broke in as a ball-centric, ball-dominant shooting point guard. Now, he was never the level or the talent that some of these other guys were, like an Iverson, like a Westbrook. But he became a product of his system, and that system shaped his play. Take Russell Westbrook. There's another guy. Russell Westbrook at UCLA was a defensive, basically a backup point guard, even though they started him at the 2. He didn't start over Drew Holiday. Russell Westbrook is now just finished leading the NBA in scoring at 30 points a game because the system required him to. No one has ever woken up and said, I'm a grocery bagger. That's what I do. I'm a proud grocery bagger. But you go to your job, that job has a system in place, that company has a system in place, and you bet your ass you will become a grocery bagger. No one ever wakes up and is like, I'm going to wash cars for the rest of my life. But when you're 16, 17 years old and you need a job, you'll become a car washer. If that's what your company and your job requires you to do, you fit in with the system, and that system starts to reflect your character, your responsibilities, and I bet you'll become a very good grocery bagger at the end of that job. System makes the person, and the person adapts to the system. Unless you are Jesus Christ himself, don't tell me you can't fit in with the system. Don't tell me that you are this player, you will be this player until you die. Because there's not a person who is that stubborn been born yet. And if they have, they're not in the league. I love comparing my own opinions with a lot of the major sports networks because I always think they're wrong. And I know I'm correct, so it just makes me feel a bit better about myself. Man, and my watch on this one's breaking too. I'm running out of watches, you guys. Like, quick side note here, I'm just running out of watches. I had like 7 watches at one point. I can't find one of them. 3 of them are breaking. I'm missing like pins in some of them. Like, I'm really just running out of watches here. See, there we go. And now I just got a new watch. Cool, I just got a new watch. All right, awesome. I'm going to wear 2 watches at the same time. That's how you know you got it big time. But like, I'm really just running out here. I think, and I just lost another one. Bro, I've lost 4 watches in the last like 4 days. I'm so sad right now. Man, like, see, losing a watch, that's a headline. Trump's Twitter, that's whatever, who cares? But me losing my watches, that's some serious shit, America. You guys need to be aware of this. What else is a headline? So, I talked about it Wednesday. Baseball had a really good week. Like, I mean, they had a really good week. It was the first time all year they've been like, they had more headlines and more noteworthy topics than the NBA or the NFL. And that's a pretty big accomplishment because the NBA and NFL normally have more headlines during the off season than baseball has during its regular season. Baseball is just a very patient sport. It takes longer to develop their players, their stories, their headlines, all that stuff. It just takes longer to get going. Baseball now, though, is heading into the second half of its season, which is generally the more exciting part to begin with. And after what they had, which they presented their All-Star game very well, all their All-Star festivities very well, they actually now have officially the best All-Star game in sports. Like, people were complaining about it a few years ago because, does it mean too much? I don't care. The NBA All-Star game is almost unwatchable, and it's just whoever's the home star player for that team. It's like, all right, he's going to get 45, 50 points, dunk a bunch of times, and whatever. No one's going to play defense. No one's going to care. They don't even try in the last 2 minutes anymore. The Pro Bowl is just a joke. We're not even going to get into that discussion. Baseball now has 5 headlines that I'm really excited for. Obviously, the second half season starts tonight. So let's get into it. My top 5 baseball headlines heading into the second half of the 2017 season. First, the NL West, will it have 3 teams with 100 wins? To put some context on this, despite having the Giants win 3 titles in 6 years, the NL West has had the worst, that division has had the worst record in baseball as a collective the last 10 years. That's an accomplishment. When you can have 3 World Series champions come out of that division, and you still have the worst record. You can have the highest payroll in baseball for the last 4 years and still have the worst record. Some things like are bad, and some things it's almost like an achievement to be that bad. We all like to joke at the '08 Lions and the '07 Lions, I'm sorry. And they were that bad. Like, it was an achievement to be 0-16. Like, wow. Like, no one remembers teams that go 1-15, 2-14, but 0-16 is that's pretty special. The Rockies, Diamondbacks, and Dodgers the Dodgers already at 60 wins. The Diamondbacks and Rockies already at 50-plus wins, 53, 52 respectively. They all have a chance to get 100 wins. The Dodgers just have to keep pace. The Rockies and Diamondbacks just need to keep pace and an 8-game win streak. Or, no, I'm sorry, it was a 6.5 game win streak via math because it makes sense. Trust me. It just sounds weird. Headline number 2. Will the Cubs miss the playoffs? This is a reality. Like, if you look at that division, you have the Brewers, who are doing far better than anyone expected. You have the Reds are kind of falling back into place. The Cardinals and the Pirates and the Brewers all chasing the Cubs, and the Cubs realistically taking not just a step backwards, they're taking a big step backwards. If you're someone who's looking for a hole in that team and you're trying to pick things apart, you have a really good argument for everything just went right for them last year. Because right now, everything's not going wrong, but not everything's going right. And they're only 2 games up in their division, and they got a really good chance of falling even lower than that. And they're not getting either of the 2 wild cards. Number 3, do the Astros win 110 games? We have not seen a team, and you can go stat for stat. I'm not going to bring them all up because it would take too long. Stat for stat, there's not been a team this good offensively since the 2000 Yankees, the 2001 Mariners, and then you've got to go all the way back to the 1962 and 1963 Reds. And that team had Pete Rose, who, if I remember right, oh yeah, he's the guy who was the all-time hit leader in baseball. That guy. Where a team has been that good 1 through 9 statistically, offensively. And not only are they that good offensively, defensively they have a chance to have a Gold Glove shortstop. They have 2 Gold Glove outfielders, a Gold Glove potentially at third base. That team is loaded 1 through 9. The Dodgers, I understand they have huge payroll or 1 game up on them, but the Astros are the best team in baseball, position by position. And not only are they best position by position, they're playing off what the Cubs did last year, which they're young where they want to be positionally, and they are experienced in pitching. I think it's a really cool formula the Cubs came up with. Have veteran starting pitchers, young position players. It mixes, it meshes well, and everybody's hot right now for that team. Headline number 4. Does Clayton Kershaw win 25 games? This has been one of the more interesting arguments you can make the case since the 2000s, is we are no longer in an era of baseball where the best starting pitcher in the game is the guy who wins 22 games. Felix Hernandez was arguably the best pitcher in baseball pre-Clayton Kershaw or pre-Justin Verlander. Verlander went on a 3-year run. That was incredible. Where you make a case. And Felix never even came close to 20 games. By the time Kershaw had already passed him, that was his 1 season where I think he got to 19. Otherwise, Felix almost won a Cy Young winning 14 games. 80 years ago, that was impossible. You had to win 20 to 22 games. And Kershaw's never been a big win pitcher as far as wins and loss goes. Like, yes, he has his 2 21-win seasons, but he's got a 12, a 14, a 13, a 8. And in those seasons, he still has a 2.79, a 2.9, a 2.1, a 1.69. So the ERA, the strikeouts, the dominance was there. But this is the first year the wins, ERA, and dominance are all coming together. He's already 14-2. He's got a 2.1 ERA. He's got 159 strikeouts already. He has a chance to be the first guy since Randy Johnson to post a post 2.3 ERA, over 20 wins, and 300 strikeouts. Oh, yeah, what did Randy Johnson do? That's right, he's in the Hall of Fame. Arguably the most dominant left-handed pitcher of all time. You know, and pretty good on backyard baseball.
Dude, for real, fire.
Fifth storyline. I've talked about Aaron Judge before, but it's, can Aaron Judge win the Triple Crown? And Aaron Judge, and I don't even think a lot of people were put onto this until they actually, during the All-Star game, they show everyone's stats. And everyone knew, obviously, he hit the 30 home runs. He was leading the AL in RBIs. He's 10 batting average points behind Jose Altuve? Jose Altuve is a pretty good hitter. I think he's fallen back to like 12 or 13 points behind him. I apologize if my number on my batting average percentage is off by 1 or 0.01, how that works. He's has a chance as a rookie. Now, I understand he's 25. To be a 340 hitter with 50 home runs and 130, 140 RBIs, that's better than what Albert Pujols did as a rookie. That's better than what Mike Trout did as a rookie. Understanding they did it much younger, but the fact this man has a chance to win a Triple Crown, which has only been done once in the last 50 years by Miguel Cabrera, and everybody thought that was impossible, and this might just be his first full season, and he's just an Altuve slump away from doing it. I understand he has the chance to slump as well, but he walks far more than Altuve does. And if I learned anything the last 15 years of watching baseball, I'm probably closer to 13 years of watching baseball, is guys that can walk, they don't slump as much. They get on base. They stay involved in the game. Adam Dunn's one of my favorite players of all time because he either walked, struck out, or got a home run, and he'd have a 220 batting average but almost a 400 on base. He stayed involved in the game. He was constantly getting on base. He really didn't slump. And Aaron Judge, not getting a huge slump, one Altuve slump, has a very good chance to join Miguel Cabrera in getting that Triple Crown. Also, let's just celebrate. There's things to talk about in baseball now. And that's a really good thing. And we're going to segue into this. And this one's not super long, so just bear with me here. The top 5 teams in baseball, in my opinion, going into the second half of the season. I already stated the Astros are number 1. They're 1 through 9, positionally better than everybody else. They have a legit ace in Dallas Keuchel, even though he does not throw hard. They have 1A, 1B, the best bullpen in the game. And they've just shown they're more consistent than everybody. It really does not matter. Like, they have games where they're not spectacular, but they're just consistent. And consistency gets you a long way. If you go back and check some of my earliest videos, I talked about the Red Sox and the Cubs. And I'm being shown right about the Cubs. The Red Sox, I'm not wrong, but I haven't been right about them. Consistency and knowing what you're going to get is a big thing, especially in baseball. Because you got to wake up 162 times, and you're trying to get it right, honestly, just even 100 times. There's going to be like 40 to 50 games a year you just lose because you're playing the 7th game of the week. You've gone from East Coast to West Coast to Midwest, and you're just lost. You don't know where you are. You don't know where your family is. You're worried about what your wife's doing at home. Like, you just lose games like that. Second place, the Dodgers. Talked about the Dodgers already. Don't want to stress on them too much. They got a lot of payroll. They got a lot of good players. And they got Clayton Kershaw. Like, 1 out of every 5 days, they're the best team in baseball. Yeah. Third place, the Diamondbacks. Fourth place, the Rockies. I've stated before, besides their own division and the AL West, they're the 3rd and 4th best teams by record in baseball. And I'm not just ranking these by it. Yes, it turned out it was by record, but flipping the Dodgers and Astros. But this is simply how I feel. The Diamondbacks and Rockies, once again, they're just out hitting everybody. And they're out hitting everybody and getting slightly better pitching than we expected without having some of their expected hitters play like their expected hitters. Like Trevor Story and Carlos Gonzalez are still batting below 230, and I did not think that was going to continue more than a month into the season. That is, going off last year, 65 home runs, almost over 200 RBIs, and a 289 combined batting average that they just don't have. And they're still the 4th best record in baseball. And the Diamondbacks, Paul Goldschmidt's just a monster. I have no other words for him. He's just a monster. It's him, Stanton, and Aaron Judge. They're just monsters. They're not humans anymore. They've transformed. They're above us. You know, I've always made the case, whoever you believe the creator is, he plays favorites, and some guys are just born better. 5th place, the New York Yankees. I think the Yankees are more of an illusion if I had to make that statement about any of my top 5 teams. But Aaron Judge is just that good right now that he is overshadowing their mistakes. You have guys playing better, slightly better, in some cases much better than what is expected. But Aaron Judge is just covering a lot of those mistakes up right now. Like the Cardinals had a 2-3 year run in the 2000s where they really weren't that good. But when Pujols was hitting 40 to 50 home runs, walking over 100 times, hitting 330, 340, you make up for a lot of mistakes like that. And that's what Aaron Judge is currently doing. He's 6'7", 280, has some really broad shoulders, and he is carrying the entire state of New York on his shoulders. He can do it, though. He's 280. Anyway, you guys, once again, like I said, we're closing out on episode 50. Really excited about that. As always, don't forget Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, HardFoul Podcast. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Subscribe to the podcast on SoundCloud. Those of you guys that have been hitting me with comments, I get the same like 4 or 5 people that have been replying to comments or are commenting on the videos. Super dope. Super excited, you guys. I've been replying to the comments. I read the comments. Yes, I do read the comments. Yeah, like it's just like I said, it's been a great experience. I'm loving every minute of it. And I will see you guys on Monday. Don't get too drunk. I'll do it for the both of us.